Although we haven't seen a Renault branded car in America for almost 30 years, I'm at the 2019 Geneva Motor Show where Renault has just unveiled arguably their most important model globally. This is the all-new 2020 Renault Clio. Let's take a first look. So although we haven't seen the Clio name in America, globally, this is the company's most important model because across Europe and other parts of the world, they've sold over 15 million units. This is now in its fifth generation. So this is a very important redesign for the brand. You can see for the all-new fifth generation model, I actually think the design, while it is foreign looking to me, is a really handsome looking car. If this did come to America, it would compete with vehicles like the Honda Fit, the Toyota Yaris, the Kia Rio, and the Hyundai Accent, which in itself is kind of a dying segment in the States. Now you can see the front fascia has this all-new look to it, which kind of takes a lot of design cues from the Renault Megane. It's got these full LED headlights with this really interesting C shape to the LED daytime running light. You've got LED fog lights at the lower fascia, and this one is kind of like the RS Sport package, which kind of gives it a slightly more aggressive front fascia to it. Now underneath the hood, Renault offers this thing with several different powertrain configurations depending on where you live. The base motor will be a 1-liter, 3-cylinder turbocharged engine with around 65 horsepower. Most will probably upgrade to the 1.3-liter turbo 4-cylinder, which has like a little over 100 horsepower. And then there's a new powertrain that's coming out that's a 1.6-liter normally aspirated engine with a 2-motor hybrid system and a 1.2 kilowatt-hour battery. Now that motor, from what I hear, isn't actually coming to Australia, but it should make around 130 horsepower. And then Renault says it's capable of running on electric power alone for up to 80% of the time, with fuel economy, of course, to be announced at a later date. Transmission choices, of course, are going to be either a 5-speed manual, a CVT, or a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. It's going to be dependent on the engine configuration that you get, and then all of these vehicles will be front-wheel drive. Now, in terms of body styles, most of you are probably going to be familiar with the hatchback configuration, which again is very popular in other parts of the world. And surprisingly, Renault actually made the new Clio slightly smaller than the previous generation. It's wheelbase at around 102 inches long and an overall length of around 159 inches long. This would put it smack in the middle of vehicles like the Honda Fit, the Toyota Yaris, the Kia Rio, etc. It's a very good-looking, sharp-looking hatchback, which I think would do well, especially with Ford discontinuing the Fiesta here in the States. Now you can see the wheel sizes. This particular one, being the RS line, has 17-inch wheels wrapped in 205 45 series tires. So again, there's a lot of performance potential for this vehicle for Renault to do a hot hatch version, and it's something that I actually would be very curious to drive and very curious to see how it did in the States if it eventually did come to America. So at the rear of the new Clio, you can see it's got a new design language that takes a lot of influence from the rest of their lineup. It's got these LED combination rear taillights, a very clean, handsome look that really goes well with the rest of the profile for the vehicle. This particular one, being the RS line, as I said, has a chrome-tipped exhaust system. It has its own unique rear diffuser that makes it look a little bit more aggressive. And then as you can see, there's a rear camera here. Renault says they're actually available automatic parallel parking and a 360 camera. So those features, again, unheard of in the US for a compact car. Now in terms of the cargo capacity, this is still a small vehicle, and Renault says that you're looking at around 391 liters of space, which translates to around 13.8 cubic feet of cargo space, which again, pretty small. Something like the Honda Fit would offer substantially more cargo space. So getting into the interior of the Renault Clio, you can see for a subcompact car, Renault has really brought up the technology game in this industry. The big center stack here is dominated by this 9.3-inch display, which is optional. A 7-inch display is going to be standard. It really makes this cabin look a lot more expensive than it actually is. Now again, I'm not too familiar with Renault's interiors, but I do know the subcompact segment, and the materials in here are surprisingly good. This RS version has these deeply bolstered sport seats with the contrasting red stitching. You have this carbon fiber look trim, you have a soft touch dashboard, graining material. It also is carried over on the doors. The windows are also one-touch automatic for all four, and really it looks a lot more expensive than its price would suggest. I love the LCD screen in the center stack. It goes complementing well with this big center touchscreen here. You can see the navigation system has really beautifully rendered graphics. It also is really snappy. It's really easy to use. You have features like the automatic parallel parking feature. You've got the 360 camera. Renault has now introduced a lot of full driver assistance tech with pedestrian detection, automatic braking, adaptive cruise control with full speed range. And then this generation also finally introduces side curtain airbags. Surprisingly, the previous generation didn't actually have that feature, so you can see Renault has been good with adding that feature. Now overall, I think the cabin definitely feels a little bit on the snug snug side, at least by American standards, but it's not really going to be anything smaller than the rest of the class. The Honda Fit technically has the most set space in the segment, but I think it would do really well. Now remember, a little history about Renault. This is actually a French company that partners with Nissan in terms of all of their products. I would love to see Nissan eventually take something like this, maybe even the next generation Versa Note, which I heard it may be on the chopping blocks for the 2020 model year, but I think this would do well if they decided to ever bring a version of this car to America. For Redline Reviews at the 2019 Geneva Motor Show, I'm Sofyan Bey.